Hello, this is Marshall Brand here. I'm not here on my normal music video. I'm here to do a video about my metabolic makeover and reset and work and putting diabetes type 2 into the rearview mirror. Uh, it's been 14 months on this journey to reverse things, and um, my current status is my I actually had two different tests, and they both for my A1C turned out 5.6. So I'm down in what would be considered the normal non-diabetic situation. I have lost 85 pounds in this 14 months, and I'm hopefully working more to continue losing. But I just let me quick give you my backstory about my struggle with diabetes. I was first diagnosed pre-diabetic, diabetic about 15 years ago, and there for a while I had it under control with. I was taking metformin for a while, but then I got it under control with um, diet and exercise, where I watching what I was eating, and I was checking my sugar regularly. And then I just sort of thought I got this thing whooped, and I stopped testing. And after a while, I got back to eating wrong habits and things. And well, anyways, long story short, I what Thanksgiving this coming Thanksgiving will make 3 years ago. I went right after that for my normal every couple months checkup at my doctor's, and he did blood work. And that afternoon, he calls me up and says, "I need you to go to the emergency room right away. Your A1C is 15. That's 1.5, way too high." I had been feeling rough that couple months before that, prior to that. And I was just, knew something was not right. And I went into the emergency room. They went to check my blood sugar. They couldn't even test it right because their meter kept telling them it was too high out of range because their meter only went up to 500. So I was above 500 when I went in. And so they put me in the hospital, put me in an IV to get it down, and did some things. And then they had me start wearing a continuous glucose monitor on my arm, and put me on insulin. I was taking insulin 5 times a day. And what got me down this journey was I'd been noticing that it was taking more and more. And the best I could get my A1C down, even taking insulin, some best one time I had a 6.2, but generally it was 6.2 to 6.5. But I started noticing I was having to take more and more insulin to keep my blood sugar under control. And that was getting me concerned that my body was getting more and more resistant to insulin. But then the big thing that happened was there became an insulin shortage. And they couldn't fill my prescription for my fast acting insulin. So the doctor prescribed a different one. They didn't have that one. Then he prescribed different. They didn't have that one. So I got in a panic and I started Googling, like, what can I do? And so I Googled and things, and up came these YouTube videos about reversing type 2 diabetes. And when you're in a spot like that, I started watching them and listening what they had to say. And it wasn't just some random people just doing it. So a bunch of them were doctors, and I started watching these, and I went on this following uh, what I call my three pillars that I follow to get reverse my type 2 diabetes. And I'm not giving any medical advice. I'm just giving you my story. And the whole reason why I'm doing this video is simply because I'm hoping that maybe there's somebody else out there was struggling like I was, and maybe get them on the right path. I'm not going to tell them what to do. I'm going to tell you here who to go watch and look at hear what they have to say, and then form your own opinion. Because some doctors are totally against this, but the big pharma is definitely totally against this because you can do this without any medications. I've been 14 months now without insulin, 13 months without any metformin. Um, there's 7 doctors that I watch very regularly, and there's a few others I watch occasionally. But I'm going to read off the list here, and I don't want to think the order I give them is of any particular importance of who I feel is the best. So I put it in alphabetical order because I didn't want to try. I'm not qualified to say who's best on any of this stuff. But I watched Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Eric Berg, Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Annette Bosworth, Dr. Sten Ekberg, Dr. Jason Fung, and Dr. Eric Westman. Now, I'm not going to tell you that they're all 100% lockstep on every little deep minutia. They have their various opinions because there's still a lot of things they're learning, but the bulk of what they're saying is the same. And some focus is more just on losing weight, not so much on the diabetes, and some on the diabetes. So, but they all hit the same things and help me to formulate what I call my three pillars. When people ask me what I'm doing, I say there's three pillars. First pillar, and I'll go back over each one a little more, well, name them. First pillar is my diet, what I eat. The second pillar is my diet, when I eat. And the third pillar is walking and other exercise. But first, like what I eat, I'm basically doing what some people would call a ketovore diet. I'm not full carnivore, but I'm not just keto. Basically, what I do is several days a week I eat carnivore. Then a couple days a week I will eat keto, and I will keep it down to 10 carbs or less. And once or twice a week I'll have maybe 20 carbs. And so that's the reason why I call it a ketovore. It's keto and carnivore combined, but definitely keeping the carbs way down. And I've learned a lot of low carb ways of making foods that I used to like eating, things like pizza and an ice cream. But even those, I try not to eat them very often because I'm retraining my taste buds and things. So and here's the thing. The funny thing about was I was originally, my focus was just about getting my blood sugar under control. I wasn't even thinking about my weight. I'm sure I wanted to lose weight, but that wasn't my main focus. And so within 2 weeks, my blood sugar, I could see it was going way down. I was wearing a CGM and it was going way down. And it wasn't even until 2 weeks later I thought, well, I ought to weigh myself. So I hadn't even weighed myself. So I may have actually lost more than 85 pounds because I was like 2 weeks in before I weighed myself. So I probably lost a couple pounds in those first 2 weeks. So it may even be 90 pounds I've lost, but it doesn't really the point. I've been losing on average, it's been about 6 pounds a month. I was going to do this at the 1 year mark. I'd lost 73 pounds at the 1 year mark, but I had an upcoming appointment to and I'd be getting my A1C checked, and I wanted to wait till I had that in and get that in. So that's the kind of diet I'm eating. Now, each one of these three things, some people could lose weight on doing any one of them. Some people would do it too. For me, it takes all three, and I'll tell you a little bit why. So the second pier is when I eat. When I first started, I had tried intermittent fasting one time before, but I wasn't eating a low carb diet. I did lose some weight at that time. Then things happened. Oh, when I went into the hospital with a high blood sugar, the person said, "Oh, you can't do intermittent fasting. You need to eat 3 meals a day and 3 snacks a day. You need to keep it, to keep your blood sugar level steady." Well, yeah, it's steady, but steady high. I don't want steady high. I want steady low. So, but I can't blame them. They haven't had much training, and the science on some of this stuff is relatively new. And plus, pharmacy, big pharma helps sponsor a lot of this stuff. So I can't really blame them. But anyways, I digress. So, but I knew I wasn't. A lot of people tell you start at the 16-8, like eat it during an 8 hour window and fast for 16. I knew that wasn't going to do much for me. So I started right off with an 18-6. I had a 6 hour window, but I kept moving it pretty quick. Each week I shortened it by an hour or more. So what happened within a month, I was down to 1 meal a day, or some people call that OMOD. And I've been at 1 meal a day because once your hormones under control and your insulin and you've been on that low carb, you're not hungry. In fact, I'm never starving till the next day's meal. I'm sure I'm ready to eat, but I'm I'm doing just fine. So I've been on one meal a day for about 13 of these last 14 months, and I've been losing weight steadily with that. Um, I walk every day. My goal was, oh, my walk was to go 50 minutes a day. That's 50, not 15, 50 minutes. Well, I walk up and down a hill, and that way I get that going up a hill, I get that resistance. And so I walk that. Usually takes me 50 to 52 minutes each day to walk that. I walk that in the morning. I tried introducing in the afternoon some bicycling, but still a little too heavy. And I don't feel comfortable being on my bicycle a lot yet. I'm hoping next spring to well, my plan is because my big thing is I'm afraid to go anywhere on a bike. Afraid what happens if I run out of energy. So I'm going to buy an e-bike in the spring, and I'll pedal till I can't really go much where I'm at, and then just count on the juice of the bike getting me back home, or just keep pedaling and knowing that I don't have to worry about getting stuck. That the e-bike would get me back home. So that's my plan in the spring to do that in the afternoon / evening time to get an exercise in twice a day because I'm definitely getting in more shape. I mean, I've been adding more laps as I go up and down that hill. When I originally started it, it was 6 was all I could get done that time. Now I'm doing 10 in the same time frame. So I'm increasing. So my heart strength. So, I've definitely improved uh, my lowered my risk of heart attack or stroke because between getting my blood sugar down where it needs to be and getting my you know weight down and the exercise getting my heart strengthened, I'm sure I'm at much less risk. Now some people, I've only recently been able to admit what my overall goal is. My goal is to get my A1C down to 4.8, ideally 4.6, but if I can get down to 4.8, and I want to lose 180 pounds. Now, a long time ago, telling somebody 180 pounds, they'd have just laughed and yeah, right. But now I'm 85 pounds in, 180 seems doable. It's just a matter of when. I figured when I started this, it'd probably take 3 years to get down there because I'm not foolish. Yeah, I've been losing 6 pounds a month, but at some point it's going to slow down to like 5 pounds a month and 4 pounds a month because as you get smaller, you're just not going to burn as much energy per day. So, but I might be able to compensate some of that by if I start doing the afternoon sessions of exercise, who knows? I might be able to keep it at 4 or 5 pounds a month. But regardless, it's not like I'm not in a super rush to get to that weight. I mean, I'd like to be at weight, my target weight tomorrow. But the thing is, I I'm not on some kind of diet where I know people that get on this diet says, I can't wait till I get down to that certain number, then I can just go back to eating like I always did. Well, here's the thing. I can't ever go back to eating like I always did because I know my body, my metabolism, I just don't process carbohydrates well. If I go back that, I'll be back to diabetes again. I have felt so much better, not just since I lost the weight, but the moment my blood sugar started getting under control. Because by the first month of this, I had my A1C down to 6.2, and then a little while back it was it was down to 6.0. Then I got it down to 5.8. But I've been feeling way better than I had before. Uh, I do take a few supplements. Uh, I've been taking hydroxyl um, berberine, and I've been taking uh, turmeric curcumin because I read about how that would help with your joints and things. And this could be coincidental. I'm not saying for a fact. But when I first started, I was having to wear knee braces every morning because my knees would hurt and my knees would sort of give out on me to walk. But after about 2, 3 months on that turmeric curcumin, I haven't worn the knee braces now in like 9 months. My knees are just fine. So many things are improving because one thing I like about the OMOD, that you get into a thing called autophagy where your body starts recycling materials and things like that. I have noticed things since that. I have a scar that was on my wrist that's been shrunk to the point where I got it when I was a teenager. It was pretty big. It's barely visible now. It's starting during this thing. I have all my skin tags disappeared. So I had a bunch of those. They are all gone. I've had so many improvements in my health. You know, now um, there are more and more doctors now getting talking about these kind of things, but some of them can't. They're hospitals because they get a lot. The hospitals don't want them talking about it because they get a lot of money from big pharma, and there's no money to be made off of people eating healthy. But I'm not here to convince you about all those facts. I'm just telling you one man's story about what's happened for me. But I've read plenty of other people's stories, and I'm just hoping that maybe this will just give somebody. I was I started this right before I turned 66. I'm 67 now, so it doesn't just work for young people. I started this at the late seasons of life, and it's working for me. And I just can't uh, express how much more energy I have now. It's like I rolled the clock back 10 or 15 years. And I just want to encourage somebody else out there that they might want to try to look into this. Do the research. You know, your doctor may tell you, I don't know about that. Do the research and you make your own decision because ultimately your health is your decision. You know, do the research and make your own decision. I'm not practicing medicine. I'm not telling you got to do it. In fact, even like the one doctor I watched, he said, not everybody needs to do this, but some of us have a broken metabolism. Not everybody, some people's metabolism, they can eat those carbohydrates and they're just fine. I mean, there's plenty of skinny people that eat all kinds of foods, but my metabolism was broken. I had to do this, you know, and and some people ask like, and I know like the walking makes a big difference because we had a really cold snap last winter, and I didn't walk for a couple weeks. I hardly lost any weight during that time. My blood sugar stayed okay, but I lost maybe like 2 pounds the 1 month because during that. So as I started walking again, boom, weight going again. The other thing I wish I had done sooner, when I first started, I was doing wearing a continuous glucose monitor. I quit that after about 6 months and just going to doing finger stick a couple times a day, simply because my blood sugar was getting under control and the cost. Plus, I just didn't like the annoyance of wearing that on my arm. I can't say it was painful, but it was just, I was always aware that it was there and I just didn't care to wear it. And it was costly. Even with my copay, it was costly. So I stopped wearing that. But the one thing I didn't do from the outset, which I should have done, but I do now, is I got myself a ketone meter. So when I do a finger stick, especially in the morning, I do a double thing. I check my ketones and I check my blood sugar. I tried the strips where you do the urine analysis on it, but that's not very exact, and I can't always tell the color change where it fell at. So I went with the meter. The big reason why I hesitated that they do cost. That's far more costly than the urine sticks because they cost they do the blood. It's about comes out to about $1.10 a strip, but my health is worth it. So I do that almost every day. I check that once in a while, twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. But I'll tell you why it was important and why if you do it, I would recommend doing it right from the outset because it helps you fine tune how certain foods affect you. Because even though they have those food charts and there's a glycemic index, how much it affects you, unless you're going to go full carnivore. If you're going full carnivore, it doesn't tell you as much because you know you're going to be in there ketosis. But if you're going to do keto, some carbohydrates may affect me more than they do you, and they may affect you more than they do me because we each have a different gut biome. So generally that's how a certain food might act, but I might have by using the ketone meter, I could get a much better idea how certain foods, because I didn't just drop stuff off at one time. My ketones dropping and my sugar going up a little bit on one, but I'd wait like a week and try it again. And if I got more, then I know certain foods are out. Then I know certain foods don't affect me at all. Now I don't try to go overboard on, but I'll have them more often. Because that's the other thing in this diet. I try not to say to any food never. I just try to say seldom or rarely, because The moment you say never, your mind says, I gotta have it, I gotta have it. And that's all you can think about. But if you tell yourself, well, just occasionally, use those kind of things. But so, anyways, I'm just trying to give somebody some little testimony of my experience with this. And I don't know if I'll do any more videos. I might do another one like when I hit my milestone at 100 pounds, or maybe at 125 pounds loss, or maybe when I get my uh, A1C down to 5.0. When I hit some milestone events, I might do another video or two like this. I mean, I plan on doing some more music videos, but I might do some more once I hit some other milestones. Unless, on the odd chance, I get a lot of comments where people want to know more about how I do some things, then I might do a more video where I go more detail what I eat, and things like that, and little tips. I will give you one tip that this worked great for me, so you don't overeat when you do eat. If you take a little slab of butter, butter is a wonderful food on this diet, about a quarter inch off of a stick, and take and consume it. So let it just melt in your mouth 15 minutes before you eat the meal. That fat in that butter starts signaling off the signal to your brain that I'm getting full. I did that especially a lot early in this thing, and I would find half the time I couldn't even finish what I was going to eat because it starts sending the signal to the brain that I was full. Sometimes I start getting that signal, I was barely started eating my meal, and you end up eating far less. A few little tricks like that, like you preload getting that fat sends a signal to your brain, hey, I'm getting full. No other substance does that. Not protein does trick kick that off. Carbohydrates never kick that off. You eat carbohydrates. That's why you've probably had that experience where you ate spaghetti and you seemed like you were never full. You kept eating and eating and eating. At least for me, I would have that. I could eat spaghetti and my stomach would be hurting and I still wanted more. But I digress. But that's just one little tip. But anyways, unless I see a lot of comments where people want to hear more about what I eat and what foods and some recipes and things like that. I'll probably only do more on this for when I hit some big milestones. Anyways, I just wanted to share one man's experience to maybe give some hope or direction for somebody else who's struggling with type 2 diabetes, that most people can defeat this. So you don't have to settle for it. And I just want to thank you. God bless you, and I hope you have a good day.